Oh, so he's gonna test me on my cheat sheet.
No, just site visits.
Oh, yeah.
Think about it.
Okay, but then they. Now we got two new ones. May have a helper. None of
Probably it won't be like when I had to run the meeting. Oh, no. 5 seconds.
One of the first, so it's pretty easy. You know, I apologize about that.
No, I meant like.
Then you have to
What
run
part? Probably
Yeah.
say, well, you can shut the public comments first. Gotta close the public comments. before you-
Can't see anything. Yeah,
It is a skill set that you have to do for a while.
these are the surveys were.
Yeah.
Those are really helpful.
Well, it is 6 o'clock. Are we ready?
Ready.
IT's ready. That's what we like to hear. I will call the meeting to order. Notice was posted in accordance with Wisconsin statute 19.84 open meeting law. At this time, we'll ask the secretary to read the notice of public hearing.
Notice of public hearing, State of Wisconsin, County of Burnett, Monday, November 4th, 2024, at 6 p.m. at the Burnett County Government Center in room 165, Town of Neenah, Siren, Wisconsin, regarding the following. And excuse me for any mispronunciations of your names. Public notice is hereby given to all persons in the town of Scott, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Robert and Connie Dubiel have made an application relative to a proposal to vary the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreline Protection Code of Ordinances as follows. To construct a bunkhouse on a parcel which doesn't meet the required parcel width for a bunkhouse located on Fish Lake at 2697 Pine Knoll Road in the RR2 zoning district, Lot 5, CSM Volume 30, page 337 in Pine Knoll subdivision. First edition, section 54014. Variance 2427, Beetle. Public notice is hereby given to all persons in the town of La Follette, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Tim Beetle has made an application relative to a proposal to vary the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreline Protection Code of Ordinances as follows. To leave a tiki bar and deck that were constructed without a land use permit, which do not meet the setback to the ordinary high water mark of Viola Lake at 24956 Larrabee Subdivision Road in the A2 zoning district parcel in Government Lot 1, Section 6, 3815. Variance 2428, Perry. Public notice is hereby given to all persons in the town of Scott, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Mitchell and Michelle Perry have made an application relative to a proposal to vary the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreline Protection Code of Ordinances as follows. To leave a shed that was converted to a bunkhouse without a land use permit on a parcel which doesn't meet the required parcel setback for width and area for a bunkhouse. To leave a bunkhouse that does not meet the setbacks to the ordinary high water mark of Rooney Lake. To leave an independent bunkhouse which exceeds the area allowed for an independent bunkhouse. And to leave 2 decks that were constructed without a land use permit which do not meet the setback to the ordinary high water mark of Rooney Lake at 1760 Sykes Road in the RR2 zoning district parcel in government lot 1, section 11, town 40, range 14. Variance 2429 Lindell. Public notice is hereby given to all persons in the town of Union, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Robert Lindell has made an application relative to a proposal to vary the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreland Protection Code of Ordinances as follows: to construct a new garage at a reduced town road setback at 28885 and 28887 Bluff Lake Road in the RR2 zoning district, lot 1, CSM, volume 27, page 226, section 9, 4017. Variance 2430 Hein. Public notice is hereby given to all persons in the town of Jackson, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Brian and Lois Hein have made application relative to a proposal to vary the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreland Protection Code of Ordinances as follows: to construct a new garage at a reduced private road setback and at a reduced setback to the ordinary high water mark of an unnamed lake or pond at 27443 Thompson Road in the RR1 zoning district, lot 3, CSM, volume 2, page 4, section 364015. Variance 2431 Duncan and Johnson. Public notice is hereby given to all persons in the town of Trade Lake, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Kevin Duncan and Bruce Johnson have made an application relative to a proposal to vary the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreland Protection Code of Ordinances as follows: to construct a new garage at a reduced county road setback and at a reduced setback to the ordinary high water mark of Big Trade Lake at 12040 and 12048 County Road Z in the RR2 zoning district, part of lot 2, CSM, volume 18, page 259 in the government lot section, or government lot 2, section 283718.
Thank you. That was a lot. At this time, I'll entertain approval of the agenda order.
I make a motion to approve.
I have a motion by Peterson. Do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Schmidt. Any other discussion on the agenda order? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to approve the agenda order. At this time, I'll read the meeting procedures. The hearing will be recorded, so ask that only one person speak at a time. When your variance appeal is requested or announced, we will ask that whoever's presenting that case that you come up to the table and sit in the chair. You will then present your case to us. The board may ask additional questions during this process. Once you are done presenting your case and the board has no additional questions, you will return to your seat and the board will then open the public hearing. Those speaking during the public hearing will have a 3-minute time limit. When you are called upon for the public comment, please start by stating your name for the record. Make comments to the Board of Adjustment members only. No questioning or arguments between individuals in the audience. Any written correspondence received will be mentioned at this time as well. Once all public speaking is concluded, the board will then close the public hearing. The board may then follow up with additional questions for the applicant. The board will then deliberate the case amongst themselves, and you will likely have a verbal decision tonight. The board may table or defer action whenever it concludes that additional evidence is needed or further study is required. If a decision is made tonight, then at the next Board of Adjustment meeting, the board members will sign the decision document. Once that document is filed in the office of the Board of Adjustment, usually within a few days of the board's signature, the 30-day appeal limit will start. Any person aggrieved by this decision or any applicant, officer, department, board, or bureau of the county or town may within 30 days after the filing of this decision in the office of the Board of Adjustment, commence an action of circuit court seeking a remedy available by certiorari. There we go. Public comments. At this time, we will present hearing variance 2426 Dubai. If I'm not mistaken, was that right?
Yeah.
DeBeal. I wrote it down too, and I couldn't find it. To construct a bunkhouse on a parcel that doesn't meet the required parcel width for bunkhouses. So if you'll state your name, please.
My name is Bob DeBeal, and my wife Connie is with me. We bought a cabin on Fish Lake a little over a year ago. And have really fallen in love with the lake and the neighbors. The cabin's a little bit smaller than we want. That we would like. It's about 780 square feet. And so we were looking at ideas for building additional space. We noticed one of the options might be to build a bunkhouse that would have living space above it. We currently have an old garage on the property that we'd like to take off the property and replace with a new garage that has a bunkhouse with it.
The garage that you're removing, the one.
Right in the center of the lot?
The one that's there
Yes.
now.
Yes.
We go and look at all the properties, so everybody here has looked at all of the sites. So we're pretty familiar with it.
Now, the proposed bunkhouse would be more than 75-foot setback from the lake, but it would not meet this 100-foot lot width. I think we're 91 feet wide right now. There is one other item, if you're looking at the map. We do have a neighbor that has a garage that was built many years ago that is actually across our property. And what we'd like to do is, right now, when we come down the driveway, we are coming right into the view of that neighbor's garage. We'd like to move the bunkhouse to provide a little bit of a shield of the neighbor's property and route the garage on the other side of the new bunkhouse so that the aesthetics of the property would improve as well from the standpoint of coming into our cabin, not into our neighbor's garage. So.
It looks like you meet the 10-foot setback and the 75-foot setback by moving.
Yes, the 10 foot off the side lot line
Yeah.
and 75 from the water, yes.
Any other comment? Mark, do you have anything you want to add? I know. I see you're stamped on this one, so that's why I bothered.
Yeah, no, and one of the reasons the 75-foot setback is so large is because just as you noticed on the east side of the cabin there's a big bump out in there. And that's from where their dock and stuff area is. It's typical of all docks that have been in the area for a long time. The erosion mark gets around there and it's about 15 feet further than the rest of the lake, which is unfortunate. Otherwise, that garage should have fit about where the old one was, but it's well back. They had space to move it and they're going to move it back.
Thanks. I have no further questions here.
Anyone have any other questions for the applicant at this time? Anything you want to share besides that? If not, we can be pretty informal that way, so. Cool. At this time, if you're good, then you can go ahead and head back and open public comment. Yeah.
Do we have anything from the DNR?
No. All you have is comments from Emily in there, which this one, there wasn't any comments since it was beyond 75. So
Yep, and I think you can look at this as unique property limitations stated in here. He's had a surveyor that laid everything out. The proposed garage of 32 by 30 is within the setbacks and behind the 75 feet. Again, when you look at the other structures to the east or west or north or south, yeah, there's other buildings closer that are in that too, so. I should say, any other public comments? I jumped ahead of myself a little bit there. We have no written comments on this applicant? At this time, I'll close the public hearing and the board will now deliberate amongst ourselves.
All right. So this would have to meet. If it was granted, it would have to be 499 square feet would be the maximum amount lot for a bunkhouse. So the garage can be 30 by 32, but the sleeping area, the bathroom, including the stairways, I would imagine you'll have an upper level.
Yes.
And then we don't, you have to be 499 square feet for that bunkhouse. And that includes the stairway going to it if the stairway is inside. If the stairway was outside of the structure, then that doesn't have to be part of the 499 square feet.
Okay. I think with knee wall space on the side.
Yes, absolutely, as long as,
As well.
And it'll have to be inspected by, you know, it'd have to be UDC inspected by an inspector. And usually they're pretty good on to make sure you're 499 square feet.
The fact that it's behind the house and not gonna be seen from the lake.
Right.
And it's just because of the lot is 10 feet too narrow.
Yep.
Is that
It's
correct?
90 to 92 horizontal according to the survey.
So everything else,
If the other option would be to add to the house, but then you're right in by the water.
We have a old growth, row of white pines on the side of the house, so if we try to go up with the living space in the house, we might have to take a tree or two down, and we prefer not to do that.
Any other comments from any committee members or questions for the applicant? Hearing none, I guess we could entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve variance 2426 with these conditions, that the land use permit will be obtained prior to construction. Your septic system is to be sized for the number of bedrooms in the cabin and the bunkhouse, and then follow all local, county, state, and federal requirements for this activity.
and then you'll have to turn in plans to Jason for him to review, his staff to review, to make sure that we meet the 499 square feet and everything else would be.
Okay.
There's a bunch of statutes.
And then after you have the county permit, you'll have to get a UDC permit. Uniform dwelling code permit, because it will have to be inspected because there's bedrooms.
Okay. Is that statewide?
That's statewide. Yep.
And the 499 is a max. Makes sense.
I have a motion by Schmidt. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Campion. Any other discussion on variance 2426 DeVille with the 4 restrictions or staff comments that were listed? If not, excuse me, if not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to approve 2426. Thank you.
We'll send you a letter with that, and then you're free to leave unless you want to watch the rest of them. So.
It's get more exciting.
Thank you very much.
At this time, we'll hear variance 2427 Beetle to leave a tiki bar and deck that were constructed without a land use permit, which do not meet the setback to the ordinary high water mark.
I'm gonna recuse myself. Hold on.
If you noted.
Maybe apply some of the lumber, not much of it in this one actually, but a couple of finishing boards maybe.
Yeah.
The comments, the pre-comments I saw had a lot to do with visibility. I did take some pictures. If you did it on site, probably not that necessary, but I used a lot of ink, so I'm gonna pass this out anyway.
All righty.
Thank you. Who's all on the board here? IT,
Nope, right here.
Jason,
So,
Dana,
I think these are in the packet, eh?
if you submitted these, they would have been with the packet.
I don't recall.
Yeah, I think
They look
The
like
black and white ones in here.
Oh,
The colors.
here, I'm looking at. Oh, here you go.
There's living color.
Color might help, actually.
All right, yeah, so this is a little background. So I purchased property in 2018, from an uncle. I moved up here permanently along with COVID when I was able to work remotely from St. Paul, so. As I kind of settled in, there was a number of things with the lot that I wanted to change. The main thing was, this was a tuck under garage built in the 1950s. The driveway actually went right up along the lake shore. And it didn't feel right parking my vehicle 20 feet from the water. So the main thing was to move that away from the lake. I really decided, it's a large lot, there's 300, close to 300 feet of lake shore. I really didn't need that much, so I've looked into what the county recommends. I've extended buffers, where I was able to. I did a number of things, which I think as a whole, the project has to be looked at as net positive. The tiki bar itself wasn't part of the original plan, so the story there is my son was attending UW Stout as a construction management manager. He had a project for the professor to build a tool shed, and he told his instructor he didn't need a tool shed, he wanted to build a tiki bar instead. And being it was Wisconsin, they said, sure, go ahead. So they held that up one weekend, unbeknownst to me, I did run up to the government center to see, you know, what the rules and regulations were. This was spring of 2022, onset of COVID. The country was just going into lockdown and the building was basically abandoned. I wasn't able to find anyone, but I did find a lot of information online as far as the rules themselves. So I told the boys, you need to stay 75 feet away from the lake. You need to not disturb my majestic pines that were right in the area that they're looking to drop this. And I really felt like we were good. We're really over 80 feet from the lake at that point, just my lack of understanding of how they measure the high water mark. I think it is a bit of a fuzzy measure on this particular lot. The county came up with one number, Mark Krause came up with another. But regardless of which one you go by, we're just a sliver short. So there's a few feet that may increase on the 75-foot setback, which is why I'm here for the variance. Really, the limitations were the pines that are, we put it back as far as we possibly could without having to disturb the pine trees, and also leave the area that the driveway now goes behind the design from the lake. The entire structure is behind the existing home. Existing home is by today's standards non-compliant, and it sits really deep from the lake area. So I just asking for an approval there. I did read the comments around, I think a lot of it was around visibility. I've certainly done a lot of landscaping that they're recommending in terms of trees and shrubs. I'll continue to do that. The challenge is, we're under big pine trees with no shade, very acidic soil. So I will throw in like 50 new plants and shrubs and 15 survive. And then I kind of figure out what will live there. And I continue to add that. So I do have pictures of, first couple of years, and I'm absolutely open to continuing to do that as it helps. And even above beyond that, if there's any suggestions from the board in terms of other areas that can be improved for land restoration. This is one of those legacy properties that I purchased with the explicit intent to pass on next generation. So I have the vested interest in maintaining the beauty of the lake, and I'm very surprised that we encountered a violation. Just my own ignorance, and if there was a better solution, I would certainly do it. But I think if we can just approve this with the few feet that is within, I'm willing to do anything else that you would recommend in terms of improving the property, because that's ultimately my goal as well.
Anything else from the applicant? Mark stamped on this one too.
Yep.
Curiosity.
What I could add to help Mark Crosby, no, we had some elevations. There was old concrete steps there. We have 979.8, and we have the high water mark is 981.8. Note on the right side there where the yard is really flat towards where the public access to the town road is there. The actual yard is lower than that by a half a foot. And if you note, the center line of the town road is 982, which is 2 inches higher than the ordinary high water mark. So I'm assuming that road was underwater during the high water a couple of years ago. And so I'm also assuming that the shoreline was disturbed quite a bit with ice pushes in the high water. And as Dana might know, he's on that lake also. And so I think, there's been some moving of the ordinary high water mark. How much, hard to determine. But there's some historic stuff that was different places, but it's hard to argue with where the water had been when the water was high for a few years. So the high water marks move a little bit at times. And so it's kind of a tough call there. And it made, from the two spots we have shown there, it's 14-foot difference. And we showed it on a couple of our drawings, the differences of how much that is.
Mark, what is that? We have the tiki bar there and the deck, and they have one line that's 75 feet. There's another dotted line that's a little closer to the lake. What's that second dotted line?
One is this, if there's arrow going to it, that's the setback from the 979.8 line. And the other one's from the 981.8.
Oh, because we got two potential.
The two different marks
They're
are
2 75-foot marks.
Yep, from different locations because of where we shot it on the shoreline, just to show the difference of those two measurements there.
Got it. Okay.
And you can see it basically straddles or fits right through deck area and the tiki bar area both ways, so.
Any other information you want to add? If not, we'll have you head back and we can open the public hearing.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. At this time, I'll open the public hearing for variance 2427 Beetle. Any comments from the people in attendance? If not, any letters written or? added?
Just had comments from Emily, conservation, about, doing some shoreline restoration. Is it, no other comments or letters?
Nothing from the DNR.
Nothing from the DNR. I don't think, from what I understand, they didn't have time to get them to us, to read the letters. So,
Understandable.
Yep.
They didn't have time.
Hearing no other comments, we will close the public hearing and the board will deliberate amongst ourselves. Any further questions from any committee members or board members on towards the applicants?
Definitely an improvement from where the driveway had been. You know, and the fact that he's putting that row of trees there and some other, you know, making an attempt to do shoreline restoration or whatever. That he's kind of improved everything.
I don't have a issue with the 75 feet. He's marked two of them. One of these conditions is when the structures are closer to the house.
Right.
You know, this is tucked in the back, like I said, when you look at that one view, you don't see it from the lake. It'd be one thing if it was like where the fire ring was, in my opinion, you know. Which, you know, we have those too.
Right. And like Wagner's survey stated, it's that ordinary high water mark is pretty disputable on this lot right here. I mean, it's pretty flat right there.
That road has been closed in the past, but it's so probably been 8 or 9 years, I would guess, and I don't think your yard is underwater, is it, Tim?
Not since I've been here, but I've only been here the last few years.
It's been way lower, obviously, too, you know, right now it's at a really nice level, isn't it?
Right.
There are no questions or no further information needed, then I guess we can entertain a motion or address any other potential issues.
I would make a motion to approve the variance with three stipulations. The shoreline to follow state standard viewing and access corridor width, which is not to exceed 30% of the shoreline for the corridor width. And the vegetated natural area needs to be a depth of 37.5 feet landward from the ordinary high water mark. This is the same requirement as listed in the state statutes 59.692 1VD, which allows for up to 200 square feet of open-sided construction within the 75-foot setback. They have approximately 265 feet of shoreline, which would allow an 80-foot wide viewing corridor and access corridor. Number two, land use permit to be obtained by 5/1 of 2025. And number three, to follow all local, county, state, and federal requirements for this activity. Though somebody from the county will come out and help you with the shoreline restoration.
I have a motion by Peterson. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Daniels. Any other discussion on the motion for 2427 Beetle? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to approve 2427. At this time, we'll hear variance 2428 Perry to leave a shed that was converted to a bunkhouse without a land use permit on a parcel which doesn't meet the required parcel width and parcel area for a bunkhouse. To leave a bunkhouse that does not meet the setback on the ordinary high water mark of Rooney Lake. To leave an independent bunkhouse which exceeds the area allowed for an independent bunkhouse. And to leave two decks that were constructed with a land use permit which do not meet the setback of the ordinary high water mark.
I'm just gonna jump in real quick here.
Yep.
So I or put an extra item in here. So the to leave an independent bunkhouse which exceeds the area allowed for an independent bunkhouse is not correct.
To leave an independent, we'll strike that.
It is under the 250 square foot.
Okay. Good catch.
Good evening. So I'm Michelle Perry. My husband, Mitch Perry, is in the audience there to support me. So we purchased the property in question on October of 2016. One of the things that really drew us to the property is the quaintness of the lake. The vintage character of our cabin. Our cabin was built in the 1950s. It was one of the originals that was on the cabin, as well as the four that are left of us. When we purchased it, there was a nice cabin, deck area in front of it. And there was an existing, what I would call a screened, two-sided screened building. That building was built by the previous owners. Picture here, you probably saw what it is today. It didn't prior to us adding on to it and improving it. There was a previous shed that was on that property that was built in my understanding in the early 1970s. So when they replaced it, that shed was damaged by a tree in a storm. And so instead of rebuilding it as a shed, they built it as a screened-in porch.
So that one was torn down when they.
That one was torn down and then they rebuilt
The green
this.
porch, okay.
this. Yep. So from 2016 to 2020, whenever we would visit and our children would come up, we have two young adult children. They're both married. Daughter has two children, so we have two grandchildren that are 7 and 8 today, but they were much younger then. Whenever the whole family would be up, our son and his wife would be the lucky two that would actually sleep in that screened-in porch. So they did that for about 4 years. They actually built a platform bed, a little Murphy bed to throw an air match and stuff on it. And it came to the spring of 2020 that we had improved upon that. We extended it to the west, which is to the side of the property, and then just framed in the front and side, added a door, windows, etc. And so you all said you've been there. But just for an updated picture, so that's what we did. We extended to the side and then framed in the front area, changing out the door location, etc. Like I mentioned, the cabin was built in 1950s. You know, the unique shape of that property, if it were being built today, there would actually be no structure that would meet any of the setbacks. There is no 75-foot mark that you could build anything on. And so when they built the cabinet, it's, you know, not that 75-foot setback. The screened-in porch is not either. But I believe in 2012, they worked with Craig Conroy at the time, who was part of the county, and were approved to build that. So in 2020, spring of 2020, we extended it to the side, which it does meet the side setback, and then we did not change the front line of that at all. We just framed in what was already existing there. And ultimately, it was really to create a more functional space for our children to sleep in. We felt bad that they were sleeping out in the open screen porch. The next year, or 2021, we added a deck, platform deck in front of it. Largely that was to give access to it because the bunkhouse is raised up off the floor or off the ground. Provided a kind of a sitting area, but also help maintain to not disturb any of the additional groundwork in front of it because it does encroach right on that 35, 37 foot mark. So really, as they approached in front of the bunkhouse, it really kept the footprint in a confined area to not disturb any area in front of that. And in 2022, there was a well house that was located behind that was already existing there. I will say it looked like a very large doghouse. It was a four-sided plywood framed structure. It had a roof on it, and to access our well pump in spring and fall to open up and shut down the cabin, we physically had to lift off the roof and lift off the sides up and over the well pump, and we broke it. We broke the well pump, and that structure was not very sound. So we framed in that space between the bunkhouse and where the actual well house was. So that was kind of an improvement there. I would just like to add that in this whole process where we expanded it to the side, there was no removal of trees. We didn't alter the ground in any way. The bunkhouse, again, we designed it to remain in character with our cabin that's on the property and the surrounding areas. Does not obstruct any other neighboring views or reduce any of the enjoyment from any adjacent properties. As I mentioned before, it's an interesting shape, size, lot, and where that's located that according to ordinances today, nothing would be able to be built on that property. We feel very fortunate because it is a very cute property. It's right next to the landing, so if anybody's gone to Rooney Lake, we're located right there. Let's see. Talked about the bunkhouse being built within the same footprint of the shoreline as the original shed that was designed there. Did receive the notes from Emily, the county conservation office, and I did reach out. Obviously, I wasn't expecting to hear back. Regardless of the outcome here, we would definitely want to hear her feedback. The property itself, kind of see from the picture here, there's a lot of tall white pines. We have very minimal grass. It's mostly pine needles. And so we would love to hear any feedback to improve the property from an erosion standpoint. Jason already addressed the bunkhouse exceeding the size maximum. So that was just a lack of, that was kind of an error in measurement there. There was comment as to 2 decks. I would just say there's a platform. I would say it's roughly 5 by 6 that's in front of our cabin between the cabin and the lake. We never intended for that to be considered a deck. It's actually that Murphy bed that my son had built. It was propped up against a tree and he threw it on the ground there. And it's stacked on a couple of blocks. The kids actually use it for staging their stand-up paddle boards and blowing them up. I certainly don't want that to be considered as part of this variance, and we're more than happy to remove it. It was never meant to be a deck. So please don't take that into consideration and just know that we'll remove that if that is of a concern. We noticed that there were some comments made about the septic system. We did just have it serviced, and we're more than welcome to have that somebody come out and confirm size that it meets the needs based on the additional bunkhouse. I would just note, I mentioned earlier, it is a 3-season cabin. We're there between May and October. Majority of the time it's my husband and I or one of our kids and their family. It's rare that we're all 6 or 8 people with the grandkids that are there. And we do have one of the few legal outhouses that are out on the property. So I have no concerns about the septic, but I know that needs to be checked and confirmed. But I just put that out there. And then there was additional comments about adding gutters and downspouts. That's very easy to accommodate based on Emily Moore's comments. I would just love to hear more from her regarding preserving the land in and around the area to make that more fall within the state guidelines of the viewing. I think that's all I have to add.
It's a lot. It's hard to run through, yes. So, good job.
You did well.
Thanks.
Mark, how big is that? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, no, well, that's fine. We
Now
can,
that, we'll wait
we'll,
until the public comments are done.
yeah, that's fine. At this time, we'll open up the public comments for 24-28 Perry.
This Mark Wake.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go.
Mitch Perry, I don't know if this is where I should add a comment. My wife will probably shoot me down later on after we get home about me talking, but never our intention to do any improvements to our property without going and getting a permit, getting the necessary paperwork and stuff. It is a frame of reference. Our property, our previous property, our house, we were gonna have some improvements to that property done at one time. So doing the right thing, we reached out to the building people and said, hey, we need a zoning permit. Well, they go, you need all these other certifications and inspections ahead of time before we can consider your permit. So we thought, well, we want to do this the right way. So we went and got all the septic and all the rest of that certified or checked out. Submitted our paperwork again, got an email back, says, well, we cannot consider your permit at this point because you don't meet the setbacks. But if it's not a permanent structure, you don't have to be worried about the setbacks for this construction we were gonna do. Oh, well, that was kind of our frame of reference here. We thought it's not a permanent structure. This bunkhouse is on pier blocks. There's no footings or nothing like that. So we just kind of went with that erroneous thought process. You know, that was our frame of reference. We wouldn't really need a permit for this because it wasn't a permanent structure. So that was kind of why we did this without actually asking at first. Just want to give you a frame of reference.
Thanks. Mark, you have something?
Just a couple things to add. You can see by showing the 35 and the 10-foot setbacks and the 30-foot right of way, there is no even close to anything buildable on it. And if you include 75, it would wipe everything out completely. And so realistically, the bunkhouse is actually in the best spot for setbacks you could possibly have out there for where it actually placed, whether it was by the right way to do it or not, it ended up falling in about the best spot available as far as closeness. It's the old style fishing cabin. You basically, you're right on the deck. I think that them and the previous landowners have done a pretty good job of leaving the trees out there. There's more trees in that area between the house and the cabin than there is on most of these ones that are 75 feet back. You know, there is more trees in that area. Not saying it's not close, but they've kept the buffer there pretty good. And if they add some more shrubs and stuff to protect the erosion, I think they'll do a pretty good job for it up there. Because there's a lot of small trees and as well as the big ones out there right now. So.
Thanks, Mark. Any paperwork or letters that came in? There's no other comments?
Nope, just the comments from Emily, which you already went over.
Yep.
Nothing else.
And we do have a lot of documentation from before. We had done a previous survey for the Andersons in 16 before they bought. And so there's a map of survey on file that shows the shed and the deck. And I know there's building permits in there from, you probably have in the packet from when Craig or Jim Flang both have reviewed and approved the future building replacement. And that's so.
If not, then I'll close the public hearing and we'll deliberate amongst ourselves. Any further questions from any board member? Any more detail of any topic that you want to look into?
I did not measure it, Jason, about how big is the bunk.
I think it's about 200.
12 by 20.
12 by 20?
240?
9 by 22, 198 square feet.
Yeah, it's got 198
Oh.
survey.
The deck, of course, is the length of the building there too. How wide is the deck?
It's 7 foot deck.
7 foot deck.
I see that picture of that bunkhouse again. Nice pictures.
Yeah, they are actually.
To stay, it would be the appropriate size for a sleeping cabin, not a bunkhouse.
Yeah, for what we call an independent bunkhouse, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, there is no running water or anything in there.
No bathroom.
What
No
are-
bathroom. No.
Basically,
Well, for an accessory bunkhouse, it's $4.99, but then if you do the independent bunkhouse, then it's $2.50. But that one can't, the independent one cannot have any plumbing or anything like that, it's literally just sleeping.
And it doesn't have to be part of a bigger building either, unlike the 499 bunkhouse.
It still has to be built to code and UDC inspected and all that stuff.
Including the deck.
Correct. Which it's a pallet deck.
Yes.
Material.
That's where I was going with that.
I knew that's where you were going.
We were driving up to the cabin one day and somebody had a couple pallets sitting there and I'm like, hey, I could probably use those. So they're 42 inch pallets right there, yeah, 42 by 11 feet. I threw them in the back of my truck.
Two pallets deep, two pallets. It's wide, so it's gotta be about 8 feet.
And the standard pallet's 42 inches wide, so it's two of them, so 84 by 11.
7'2".
Seems to follow the theme going down the shoreline with the buildings there.
Mm-hmm.
They are correct, the site was pretty wild. It was
It's wild.
Not developed. It
It's
was
as
very
wild
nice.
as you're gonna see. It's like a boundary water site.
that was nice to see.
And I do have grandkids and adult kids, so I know I understand that. It's just that I'm in a tough position here.
Jason, is there any benefit if we were to allow the bunkhouse to be a sleeping cabin and rebuild the deck outside of the 35? Does that make the deck 4 feet instead of 7 feet or something? Is there any benefit to the 35-foot?
No,
We would definitely be open to changing that deck, cutting it in half, doing something to get within the square footage we would need to have it approved.
because you can't do it underneath the gazebo provision, the 59.692.1V, because their cabin already eats up to 200 square feet within the 75-foot setback, so it really doesn't matter.
Okay, I didn't know if there's,
Correct, because yeah, I'm just saying from continuity, we've talked about that 35-foot border quite a bit, and this is unique because it cuts right through the cabin already, and it's on that, so. You're saying it, even if the variance is, it's still kind of mute?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference if it's 42 inches closer to the lake or not.
I was going to ask Jason too, since this is pretty untouched. Do they have to fill in with some more shoreline restoration? I mean, it's like in its original state practically.
Well, we haven't had Emily go out there and look at it, so that's the standard condition that we put for everyone that
Yeah,
requests something to be less than
so
75,
if
so.
we felt that it wasn't important because it isn't disturbed, we could take that out.
You can do whatever you want, yeah.
Awesome. What do you guys think about that?
I like how wild it is. I wonder if there's not something they can do to still help with erosion, because there's nothing growing under the trees. There's no grass at all. I don't know
Well,
what you do for that.
I think didn't she put in here the rain garden?
Yes, yes.
So that would take care of the
Gutters.
erosion off of the bunkhouse.
Yes. And because of the pine needles and stuff, they'll probably have the same problem as the other person did with getting many
Nothing able
things to grow.
I know. No, I was just wondering, you just have the one access, we have one door.
One door, front door, yep.
But you have another way to get out by the side windows. I always wonder when you have kids sleeping in a place, if you just have one access to get out of a building if there was a
There
fire.
is no heating element in there.
And that doesn't matter.
And the windows are 32 inches wide.
Yeah.
Wouldn't the UDC pick
Yeah,
that in
yeah.
anyhow?
So
So
it'd be taller.
Building it to code, it's gotta be, if it's gonna be, have to be UDC and inspected, that's gonna be all addressed.
Right.
You know, egress and ingress, cause that'll be specific and, you know.
Sure bracing might be tight on that too, but. See.
So I'll just state some stuff from reference, cause like I said, we've done, it's really hard, especially new. To have consistency and see what we've passed. Now, every application is independent and that's the whole point of this, so. There isn't a precedent set, but it's kind of the thing, so. The thing that strikes me from just the 2 years that I've been on the committee is we do talk about that 35-foot line as something that's, you know. A significant situation. In this case, because it already runs through the house, there's really not a whole lot. You know, as you were saying, it's kind of mute because the square footage is ate up on the house part of the deck that you're saying. I don't have a problem with the bunkhouse if it were to build the code where it is because it's sitting in a good spot. My personally only concern seems to be the deck that runs through the 35-foot line. Now, does that make sense to you?
Mhm.
From a consistent standpoint? I don't know where you guys are on approval on that, so. That's just what sticks out at me is like, is it worth hassling if we say. Keep it to the imprint that's there, because when you look at that map, there's. What, 14, 18 feet of square footage that's on that 35-foot border?
Maybe.
Or do you just say, hey, you're going out 40 foot on the deck and that would bring it to within that, maybe the whole thing is behind the 35 feet? That's to me a condition that we could discuss, because I think the bunkhouse is fine where it is. It's very hidden on that property, like I said, it's really wooded. I don't think it's gonna be harm to the public or view interest, a unique property thing, it's just. My only hangup is, do we leave the deck as is and they can build a new one to code that would be in that 35 feet? And we have to remember that, like I said, the other deck is already there, and that's where Jason's stating. The square footage is already eaten up with the house.
Yep.
And then we'd be granting more footage beyond that 35. So I guess I would line saying that. The bunkhouse would be okay, but no portion of the deck could go beyond the 35-foot mark.
A good reason to go with that is that if they would decide to build a permanent one. Then for future owners, that would set a precedent that we accepted it as it is, wouldn't it? And we'd be better off to say right now, cut it off, if we feel that it should be,
At 35 feet,
yes,
behind 35 feet.
right.
And
So
I think
within
that, that's what this board has always kind of.
Yeah.
Hung their hat on,
Mhm.
there's nothing inside that 35 feet.
And I would say that's real consistent with how we went in the past, so.
And then also remove the Murphy bed deck,
Yes.
what we'll call it.
Is there electrical in the bunkhouse or we're not calling it bunkhouse because it's a freestanding
well, it's an independent bunkhouse.
independent bunkhouse?
But
There
it
is
can have
electrical.
electric, it just can't have the plumbing, right? Or,
Like, really?
Yes. Yeah, you can have lights in it. Like in the little
Safer
flashlight.
than a lantern.
Mhm. Yeah,
that, I mean, that seems like a fair compromise, I think I feel good about our consistency in that. Throughout the years, it solves the problem that they have, that they could. Bring the bunkhouse to a better standard from UDC, it's sitting in the very nice location, as Mark said. If you were to build a new structure, that would be the only thing there, if it could be done in today's standard, but it is there. It's not a massive increase because The structures have been there over the years. They've been modified without permit, but that's fairly common in this circumstance because they're up there on the weekends and next thing you know, it gets slapped up. Or he finds pallets on the side of the road and next thing you know, we got a deck.
Well, and the other thing is, if that cabin was tore down. If that cabin was tore down, they could build on that same exact footprint and go up a second story.
Yeah.
For brand new.
35 feet.
So they could do the bunkhouse if that cabin, the old cabin that they love was removed. If somebody else bought it, they could tear that down, do the exact same footprint, go up one story and have more square footage than that bunkhouse would be.
Still require, shoreline restoration, or at least look at it.
I don't think it would, Jason, if there was a tear down.
Well,
Or you're talking now.
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
talking-
Yes. Sorry.
At least see what she says, maybe it's not needed.
Any other discussion? If not, does anyone want to make a motion?
It's a big motion.
Lot of reading there.
I think that they're more than welcome to shoreline vegetation anyway, because they wanna know what they can use to,
Yeah, actually, the applicant addressed all of the issues that were in the staff comments when she was in the thing, which I thought was very well, so thank you. Yeah, I think that's the only thing is that it's consistent on that, you know, that 35 thing, so.
We're gonna add in that be reduced to be within 35 feet.
So you would basically have another condition of no portion of the bunkhouse deck allowed within the 35-foot setback.
Correct. So there'd be a total of 6 stipulations with it.
Actually, it'd probably be 7.
What
Because
was
then
it?
you would remove the Murphy bed deck.
Yeah, I got that. I even have it written down. Excellent work. I'll make a motion to approve variance 2428 Perry. That with conditions that no portion of the deck on the bunkhouse be within the 35-foot setback. Shoreline to follow standard viewing and access corridor, which will not exceed 30% of the shoreline of the corridor width. The vegetated natural areas to be a depth of 37.5 feet landward from the ordinary high water mark. This is the same record listed in statute 596921VD, which allows up to 200 square feet of open side construction with 75-foot setback. They have approximately 250 of shoreline, which would allow a 75-foot wide viewing corridor for access corridor. You can work with the county to get the more details on that after the situation. Gutters and downspouts be installed on the bunkhouse and then the water directed into a rain garden or rock trench. Land use permits to be obtained by 5/1 of 2025. Your septic system evaluation to be completed by 5/1 and 25. Verify the septic system is sized appropriate for the number of bedrooms in the cabin and the bunkhouse. Follow all local, state, county, and federal requirements for this activity and removal of the Murphy bed deck. Motion by Gransky. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Campion. Any other comments on variance 2428? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Variance 2429 Lindell to construct a new garage at a reduced town road setback.
I'm gonna recuse myself from the rest of them.
Would you stop selling stuff? Yeah.
It won't be this bad in the
I just.
future.
Lindell is not here that I know of, so.
That's an interesting situation.
You didn't ask me to I mean, we did we got us approved from the 2019 one and we did
How
the
much do you
updates.
wanna earn your money, Mr. Smart?
I mean, I can address what he's doing. He's looking to put it.
Fine.
I mean, I can. If you wanna, he can't show up online either. No.
This is a unique precedent, I guess.
Well, you could
Table it.
table it. Oh, I can't notice it for, so
Oh, it wouldn't.
I'd almost want you to have the public hearing.
Well, you are contracted as the surveyor, huh?
Yeah.
We've talked before on other ones.
Yeah.
But doesn't it state on the permit application that your representative has to show up on the night of variance?
Well, but if Mark's is.
If Mark acts as a
Yeah.
representative, they'd be taking liberty, because I know Mark has done other stuff, I don't know.
Yep.
It is, it's never had no one call in or.
I'm
say.
good with Mark representing him if you're willing to do it, Mark.
I guess, yeah, I can.
Otherwise, he wouldn't be posted for the next thing, and then we'd be done till next year, so. Yeah.
You have the opportunity to table to make the final decision or not.
Yeah, you could say they could make the decision next month, because then it could be an agenda item as long as you held the public hearing tonight. So cause I can't notice the public hearing in time to redo it
Correct.
next month.
'Cause I can't address his building sizes because I don't know what they are other than what's shown up on here and what he provided for information, because he actually submitted the application.
I think it's 75 if I'm not mistaken. Or is that the next one?
No, that's the next one.
Okay.
This one's a little 2-car garage.
Gotcha.
And as you know, it's very, very steep out there. We had the other one approved to do an addition onto the house.
No, 2019 approval.
2019 approval, and with a garage also. COVID hit and nothing happened. We didn't get it built, didn't get contractors or whatever, and so nothing happened on another one. So it wasn't the fact that and so as time has lapsed and stuff, I think it was all discussed that nobody thought that his home should be added on to in that manner, because it was not, I mean, put that way, the house needed more than an addition to it, basically, so, but he does need a garage. And so he was looking to put the garage on the far westerly side of the property, or the right hand side as you look into the lake. And I think you have the drawings that show where we put it there. And of course, it does not meet the setbacks from the town road.
Do you know if he's planning on just a garage or is he going to?
It's a garage at this time. This is all the application is for.
And they wouldn't be putting a driveway off of the garage, would still be the old and doors would be on the. No,
I think from talking to him, he wants the doors facing the road.
so that would be a new access onto that.
Yeah, that's usually,
And I told him that's usually not what this committee grants when you try to reduce the road setback. So,
And it was very similar to the one just down, the next one down the road.
but that one, the good doors are on the side. Down the road.
Is it on the side? It's been a long time. It's been a while since we've been out to the second one. You know, so. That's one thing I can't answer for him.
Yep.
Whatever it is this time.
So we virtually approved another one just down the road that was almost exactly like this, right?
I'm assuming it was done before.
Yep, with the garage doors though on the side.
Yeah,
On the
I
side.
think I remembered that because I
Yep.
thought we already did this one when I drove out there.
we get real close to where.
Yeah, it's literally the
It's hard
next
to
house
remember.
down,
Like,
Yeah, I think
the next house further down the road.
very similar circumstances because everything's up on the bluff there and it's
Yeah.
such a steep bank down. To the water.
Yeah, well, the property limitations are extreme.
Yes, absolutely.
But it seemed like it was plenty of room to leave that existing driveway and take a
Yeah.
right into the, if the doors are right there.
Come
Also,
off the
it-
side.
Yeah.
Instead of off the road.
Yeah, I know it seems safer.
And
for
usually
backing
that's- Usually that's not a problem, that
Yeah,
people,
because
right?
the lot is plenty wide, so it should not be an issue to do that. So.
Cause the stakes were pretty much in the ground.
Okay, so
Um,
when we discuss it, we'll go through.
In 2019, it was approved, just never was pushed on a similar plan.
Let's see, what does it say in my staff report there? It should list everything that I have there. Mr. Variance 1912 approved to construct an addition to the dwelling in a reduced road
Oh,
setback.
into the dwelling.
This project was not done. I don't I could pull it up to see how close he was trying to get that time.
But
It was 8 feet from the road right away.
Okay.
and we're currently 5, or is that 10?
He was trying to get 10.
Yeah, okay, I was looking at this height at first, that's right, there's 10 foot, yeah. Misread that, I thought there's the garage, we just never built it, and was coming back. The house, so that's, I mean, somewhat irrelevant, except for they approved the 8 feet. At that time, and they're asking for 10 now.
And yes, so it's
I'm
less.
guessing at that point. They would
we
have
done with
probably
that?
said the doors would
I-
have went on the
yeah, I
side
think
too. It sure looks like it was gonna come in from the side
Side.
on that 2019 variance as well. It looks like
Oh, it was drawn.
the way the garage you would have
too.
drove in.
Yep.
This
Yep.
way.
Appreciate you coming up, anything else, Mark?
No, it doesn't have any of the lake aspects of most of them or anything like that, so there isn't really.
It's pretty high up there.
Restoration, just the road setback is what the is on this one. So.
I walked around the side of the thing and looked at the steps going down. Better person than me going down there.
Monorail. Escalator. All right, at this time, we'll
Yeah, this is what the other one, you'll see here, the other one was here, and it was attached, it was actually the garage that he's building there too, but it was attached to the house, so it was part of a house addition, because the garage is attached, now it's separate, so basically it means moving it over to the other side of the ravine or the, the road that goes down there, so.
So he was coming in through the side on that one,
Yes.
not off the road.
Right.
Okay.
Cool, thanks, Mark.
Yep.
At this time, we'll open up public comments for variance 2429 Lindell. Any comments from the public here? Hearing none, any letters or information?
Just comment from Emily, no comment.
No. Note that. I will then close the public hearing and we'll deliberate amongst ourselves.
Okay, question. So we've done this now until we see actually that he'll come off the side of this. We don't have to approve it. We can then table it or not table it, but then we can bring it up on the agenda next month.
Yeah, there's two ways you could do it. You've held the public hearing now, so you could table it until next month and make a decision, or essentially you could just approve it. And
One of
with
the
the condition
stipulations that we
that,
won't allow access off the roadward side.
Yeah, I
That's the
mean,
thing, which
that-
has been very consistent with our procedure, so.
Yeah.
If he wanted to build the garage in said location, he would have to enter it from which the driveway side, I guess you would call it, or between the house and the. So, and our intent there is always that when you're that close to the road, we don't want people backing out onto the road or street out of their garage where there's no way you can see your periphery. That's weird.
Pretty good.
Yeah, never know what situation the applicant have, but this isn't just a whim meeting. You pay a significant amount of, application fee and things like that. So I would say that I would recommend if we were to approve it with that condition, just doing it tonight and then if he doesn't like it, then he can appeal or do whatever. Otherwise, we could table it and list it on the agenda for next month, but
I'd rather finish it.
makes sense to me. Any other questions or concerns? Again, in 2019, he had a different plan, but at that time it was approved to build within 8 feet of the right of way. This plan is within 10 feet, separates the two structures. As long as we make sure that the ingress and egress is at the safe part of the thing, which is on the driveway side that doesn't enter on the road, then that is a stipulation should be done, so.
And you've kind of said that a garage is a necessary thing here.
It's, yeah, unique property limitations. There's not much flat ground on the top.
And they had the two big Conex boxes there for storage, right?
Yes. And then
Yeah,
they
yeah.
go. Right, they would go.
yeah, I'm assuming they're gonna go.
Well, they'd have to.
Yeah, there's no-
Because the stakes go right
Yeah,
through them.
exactly, yes.
Do we want to say that even if it's obvious that they have to be removed.
I guess I wouldn't worry about it. Cause they need permits. If he wants to move them somewhere else, it's gonna need a
Sure.
permit, so.
I did read somewhere that it would be within the.
I thought I did too.
Yeah, that might have been in his application, maybe he said something about removing those or something. These shipping containers to be removed from the property, yeah, what he wrote on page
Yeah, I remember
3 of
reading
9.
that.
Yeah. So yeah, you would basically wanna make a condition that the entrance be on the south side of the building.
Yeah, okay.
If you're gonna approve it.
All right, make a motion that we approve variation 2429 Lindell with the following 4 stipulations. Number 1, land use permit to be obtained prior to construction. Number 2, property erosion control or proper erosion control to be in place during construction. Number 3, follow local, state, county, federal requirements for this activity. And number 4, the garage doors are to be moved to the south side of the building, not directly off the road.
I have a motion. By Schmidt, seconded by Daniels. Any other discussion on variance 2429 Lindell with the 4 said conditions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to approve 2429. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Do it with that condition. Variance 2430 Hen to construct a new garage at a reduced private road setback and at a reduced setback of an ordinary high water mark.
Good evening.
Good
Evening.
I'm Brian Heen. This is my wife Lois. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule. Appreciate that. You folks were out and visited our property. I apologize that we weren't able to be there, but thank you for coming out regardless.
And
We had a nice little chat.
with your neighbor.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Right.
Corrigan?
At different times.
Okay, good. Was it good? Was it? Okay, super.
Beautiful day.
Good. So, just a quick background about Lois and myself. We bought the property in 2014. We're originally from Cashton, Wisconsin, born and raised, both of us. And, we moved to the Twin Cities in 1985, but Wisconsin has always been our roots. As I said, we bought the property in 2014. It had been vacant for a number of years. And so we spent a lot of time and money to upgrade the property and so forth. And, that goal of doing that is for it to become our forever home, our retirement home as we go forward. We currently live in Maple Grove, Minnesota. And we just want to get out of the Twin Cities. We spend as much time up here as absolutely possible. So that gives you a little background. We'll be doing that transition in the next 6 to 9 months. I'm currently serving on the North Sand Lake Association board. And my goal is to keep fighting aquatic invasive species. And so working with Jason's group, Dave Ferris, Tom Bouvier in the past, as well as Emily Moore in that regard. Going forward, we need additional storage. We currently rent up the equivalent of 4 spaces, storage spaces. So we need some space as we transition from Maple Grove to our property. And so we want to build this storage building, and I think you may have copies, but that's a color copy. And that is a view from the north side of the building. Okay. So with regard to the 3-step variance test, unique property limitations, we feel that our property is a little bit unique in that there's a higher elevation as it relates to the 75 feet ordinary high water mark. The area that we had selected out there, we did in concert with this size of building, which is nominally 36 feet by 75 feet long. And it would fit in that area, which is nominally 125 feet by 75 feet. So those are kind of the unique property limitations in terms of where else could we put the garage, okay? We have an existing garage and you can see it on Wagner's survey. And the problem is that driveway, which we share with our two neighbors, but it's pretty much on all our property. And then they go off when we get kind of to the end of it. So the logical place to put a new building would be where the existing garage is, but the problem is our neighbor loses access to his property. In addition to that, from a hardship standpoint, the Polk Burnett utility box would be near that old garage. So our plan is, if approved, is to leave that existing garage and build the 36 by 75 foot garage out back. We're gonna incur additional costs from Polk Burnett, but it is what it is. In terms of no harm to public interest, we feel that there's no harm to public health, safety, welfare of others. We certainly have the support of our neighbors. You had a good experience with Steve. We have designed the garage with rain gutters, downspouts, and we would incorporate rain gardens as needed for the water quality. And I've been in touch with, I responded to Jason's email as well as copied Emily with regard to that. We obviously would include a silt fence around the entire building to prevent any erosion or runoff during construction. And then we would maintain the scenery and so forth with regard to the color of the building that we think that we've selected, in addition to additional plants, trees, and things of that nature. Unnecessary hardship. Our existing home here in Burnett County will become our future home for the future. We have a great lot, except it's long and it's narrow. And so that's a limitation in that regard. As I said, the existing garage is a perfect spot for a larger garage, but it's just not going to work out in terms of the driveway, the access to the neighbors. In addition, within the road, when we had fiber optic, Sirentel brought fiber optic in, they trenched it right down the middle of the driveway. So we could say, well, move the driveway. Well, that would be quite an expense to have Sirentel move the fiber optic out as well. So I think I've covered it. I did take some pictures. Happy to share those with you. You folks were out and looked at those. They're from different spots. On Saturday was absolutely glorious.
Yeah.
But you kind of get an idea of based off of the survey map and how the driveway for the three properties runs through ours. And our plan is to put up a Morton steel building, and then the concrete work, electrical, and all the other contracts would be done locally as well. Local contractors.
Oh, that's fine. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
At this time, we'll open the public hearing for 2430 Hen. Any comments from anyone here at the item? Mark, do you want to add anything?
There's two major questions out here on things. One is, we had the original layout done, assuming it was wetland setbacks. And it would fit the 40-foot setback and would fit the 40-foot setback from the road. But
And it's Lakeman.
what?
And then it became Lakeman.
In Lake Mead, yes. And so that's, and we're not disputing that, it's a DNR rule with Jason's discussion and so forth. Or you even look on the regular, the natural resources map, it doesn't show it as lake bed, it shows as wetland also, but we're not gonna, you know, there is flow through there when the water is high, it's
And
connected to the lake.
isn't it standard practice for DNR that they're not, the maps aren't correct until field certified on some of that stuff verified?
Yes, yeah. But yeah, this is off, I mean, this is, things have changed a lot since whenever these maps were put in 55 or 65 or whatever they were too, so the jurisdictional things have changed and so forth. And so what we're here for the Heens basically is the difference between the location where this is with the 40-foot setback and the 40-foot from the road. And you can also see the 40-foot setback from the road stops where their driveway cuts off to the right. If they would have turned in their driveway up here on lot 3 where they belonged, the 40-foot setback on the road would have went away. But it didn't, and that's what it is. And so if you look at this one with the setbacks and so forth, this is what we just picked, put on for the presentation, but we definitely like to be here to negotiate or to discuss sliding it back and forth a little bit. One of the main reasons is if you're out there, you saw the front of towards the lakeside drops down about 3 or 4 feet. They would have to cut up about 3 or 4 feet of the hill or do a lot of filling and grading out there. If we could slide it back about 10 feet to the east, would be probably better than where we staked it. You know, it was kind of after the fact we staked it, we kind of compromised, 30 feet from the road and 30 feet, 60 feet from the back. And as you can see there, the setbacks for the 75 go right down the middle. So if we can slide it south and it could slide a little bit more east than what we've got on your drawing, closer to where the first drawing was, would be probably the best spot logistically for grading purposes, fewest trees, and it would give them more space actually from the road, which is where we think the wetland isn't gonna change no matter what on the backside there. 75 cuts in there at a goofy angle because there's a bay in the front and a bay in the back. We can't get more than the 40 feet hardly, no matter where it is, it's just a matter of which parts are closer.
So you're asking, and actually, it's not on our map, but you're looking at from this 40 foot,
Between,
this one here, you wanna shoot it to the south and east, so the building goes that way a little bit.
this was our first rendition when we were out there looking at it before.
On the dotted line is what it
pretty
is.
much.
Oh, it's right on the 10-foot setback is what
Yeah.
you're saying.
And we could compromise somewhere in between there, but if you would put the limitations that we can't go closer than the 40 to the lake and 40, and maybe make it 35 or 30 to the road right away. And then we can adjust the building a little bit in there where we're, between the two drawings, somewhere in between is where we think the best location actually is for that building site. Yeah. Because what we have shown you on the drawing you have, we'd probably like to slide it at least 15 feet to the east. And then how much south is the question, towards the 10-foot setback.
Looks like that's about another 10 feet if I'm looking at scale on that.
We could go,
I agree.
and if you've seen the site, it's kind of a little bit of a dome site. And so if we can get as closest to the top of that and then limitate it, then they can use the sides for their
I don't
rain
mean,
gardens.
you probably 3 minutes is up.
Pardon?
But that's excellent. We can come back to this. So we are still in public hearing. So
Are all the flagging tapes that were on the trees that are gonna be removed?
No, we just put those out just to get a visual. This fall, I rented a walk behind brush cutter just to get an idea of what the terrain looked like for a visual standpoint, and then had marked the trees again from a visual standpoint. It just helps me catch my eye in terms of which trees we'd want to keep and which trees we want to remove.
Made it for the surveyor and you guys to walk around out there too.
thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Any letters, comments from staff?
No, just the comment from Emily about the rain gutters.
Yep. Cool. If not, then I will close the public hearing. The committee will deliberate amongst ourselves.
It makes sense to add that the building will move when we make our motion if we decide to.
Yep, that's fine. At one of the points I had and why I highlighted the rest of these is whether it was wetland or lake bed, you know, it doesn't look like the other parcels were even, if I don't know, I'm assuming this is yet to scale, but all three of those garages or the two garages are well within that 75 foot of it. And then one of the things I always try to look at is that then consistent with the properties around there. You don't want the dinosaur or elephant in the room on that. So where it is located as what's submitted in the paperwork would have been fine. I don't even have a problem taking it 15 feet to the east and 10 foot to the south, which is where it was originally spec'd on the 40 foot of wetland, not lake bed area. Because I still think that's consistent, because I think if you were saying then on the front side of that building, which is the west? Should be west, yeah. There's less excavation and groundwork that would had to be done that could end up with some more things, erosion and things like that, so. Is that like is 15 feet to the east and 10 feet to the south of the map there that's presented, a accurate statement of what you guys were asking?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions from committee on that? Any other conversations or thoughts? Like I said, the way that 75 cuts in there, it's not there. The only other thing is that's a big garage. I know I've seen in the plan, there's windows. That's not intended to be a bunkhouse or
No,
guest house and things like that.
we just want to use the natural light.
Just
that-
store, I need storage.
Well,
So will there be a bathroom in there? Mark, can I see that lake map you showed? Remember you had it, you said it was done in whatever the,
Most of those were done in the sixties.
a lot of good things happened in the sixties.
Do you want this back, Mark?
There's Thompson Bay, right, that's what was right out, so this is a wetland, this is a high pond right here.
Okay.
So this is. And then the road is here, this is over here, of course, it's a little bit cockeyed for north, is a little bit
Yeah,
like that.
See it or no? Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, the driveway cuts right through a lot of this.
Mm-hmm.
And services, what is it, the 3 houses? Or is there 4? The 3, just on.
You're the middle one?
Yeah.
And so that is just a private driveway, it's not a town road, right?
That's correct.
So when you look at that easement, when we're talking about that 40 foot setback on the road, the chances of that road bed ever moving are slim to none. Just from a real, you know, when you worry
Right.
about the intent of the 40 foot is to make sure, because there is circumstance where I've, you know, in the 24 years I've been on the town board and town chairman, it's like, we have shifted a road actually in the right of way, but only one time, and I think we moved it 10 feet to the south, which impacted people's fences and yards and things like that, but it's very rare on especially private roads they're laid out, so.
The neighbor to the north could put his own driveway in, but there's a low pocket, so it's always been around it. It was probably the logging trail or the trail into the cabin, and it's just been continued to be used in the same spot, so.
And that moving of it by the 15 feet to the east and 10 foot south actually takes a lot more of that 40 foot out, but it's kind of irrelevant anyways, I think. It's just mainly for the better building site is what makes sense. I don't see any harm to public interest or anything. I appreciate the applicant actually running through the 3 points. That's nice to see that they follow the application instruction. Do I have any other discussion or questions from board members? Yes, if not, I would entertain a motion.
I would make a motion to approve the variance 2430 Hein. For 5 now. Stipulations, gutters on the garage, which you've indicated that there would be with water directed to a rain garden or a rock trench. land use permit to be obtained prior to construction. Proper erosion control to be in place during construction. Follow all local, county, state, and federal requirements for this activity. And the ability to relocate the proposed garage 15 feet to the east and 10 feet to the south, or as is seen to be workable in that space.
Yeah, I would just say they can move it up to 15 feet east and up to 10 feet south. That gives them flexibility to go if they want to
Works a
go.
little bit within that.
Yeah,
And final building plans can be, building stakes can be put in and reviewed by the zoning.
well, that would be when we get a permit anyhow.
Anyway, right.
I have a motion by Daniels with 5 stipulations. Go ahead.
Seconded.
Seconded by Schmidt. Any other discussion on 2430 Hein with the 5 conditions that we talked about? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to approve. You have your variance. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Variance 2431 Duncan and Johnson to construct a new garage at a reduced county road setback and at a reduced setback for the ordinary high water mark. That's deja vu.
Right. Good evening, I'm Kevin Duncan, I'm here with my wife Joni. So. We're from the Grantsburg area, we bought a cabin on Trade Lake. It's fall actually. We kind of love the area, love the cabin. One thing we noticed after we bought it, we have very little parking, and when our family comes over and stuff like that, it's hard and congested in that area. So we're looking at options, what we could do with that as well. I met with our neighbor Bruce Johnson, and he was willing to sell me a little parcel that would permit putting a garage and some extra better parking solutions there. One thing about the cabin, it's just a small 1-bedroom cabin. We would like to possibly even make that. Not saying we would, but if we could get a garage or something there at some point in time, we could even be our permanent residence maybe at some point in time. Where we live year round. It may stay as a cabin, or it could be a year round place if we were to put a garage there for storage and access and stuff. So you all were out and looked at the property. Right now it's very wooded. The shoreline is very wild and rugged. We do not plan on changing the shoreline and doing anything with that. We just want to be able to build a garage and an access from the garage to the house and have some parking. That's what we're hoping to do, you know. We'd like to put a bathroom in the garage, so I can have a place to clean fish and that kind of stuff. Some place for me to escape from the wife once in a while, get off the garage. Yeah, I don't know.
Especially with the small house.
Yeah, yeah, but that's our plans. We did put a attic trusses in, so we have some room for storing floaties and that kind of stuff above it and stuff too, to have some additional storage, because there's very little storage in the cabin as well. So if you were out and looked at our existing site, it's very limited with the lake and the road there on and and stuff. We bought it in the shoreline with the shore existing the way it is the very portion right towards the lake is the only really level spot where my family has to, my kids love to play bags, my grandma and stuff, and my mom there, but it's really the only kind of nice area, level area on the whole lot that we're able to get together and be able to play games like that there as well. So one of the stipulations here in the comments was to do the shoreline, corridor restoration there, so. If we had to let it all grow back in, we would probably not go ahead with the garage or something like that there, just because that's limiting, kind of what we bought the cabin for in the front of the family to be able to utilize that as well. We would, we're open to planting, obviously, a few shrubs or whatever that would still limit or give us the possibility to be able to access and utilize that. Obviously, we do the gutters and, rain garden, proper erosion control. I went out today and looked at the, when we bought the cabin, we were given a key to the lock on the septic tank. But, I looked at it today, there's one chain coming up, but there was no chain on the second side to lock it together, so. So I didn't notice that when we bought it, because obviously, yes, I will fix that. But yeah, that's all I got, I guess. I do have some pictures of the lake shore on my phone, if you would like to see that, but you were all out and looked at it and see how wooded or, stuff, and, obviously, I would be more than willing to plant anything in there if you want more, shoreline and stuff on that portion as well, because we'd like to leave that.
Would the overhead doors be facing?
Yes.
Then?
They would be, yeah. We are very limited on space on how to get in, so. And you have a survey of lot two of what we did buy, so you did see what that was, right? So you have that
Yep.
portion of it as well.
So the upper level, the up above is not gonna be sleeping area,
It is not, it would be for.
storage only.
If we park the car, if we were to use it at a residence, if you got two cars, you'd want to park in there, or maybe a car and a boat or something at some point in time, so it kind of uses up a lot of the garage space as well, so.
Right.
That's why we want to try to get as much floaty lake toys type of stuff, place to put stuff.
I don't think I have any.
Okay.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll open up the hearing 2431 Duncan and Johnson. Any comments from people there at the situation? No letters or information received?
Just comments from Emily. Yep, shoreline restoration and then the rain gutters.
Hearing no other comments, I'll close the public hearing. The committee will deliberate amongst ourselves on 2431.
Tight location.
It is.
All of the building structures along there are very tight to the road, tight to the lake, tight together.
Do you know who owns the sheep nearby there?
I didn't even notice there was sheep. She said sheep.
As I
Oh, you mean, when you go down the
Isn't that
road?
Mary?
When I went down the road,
Yeah.
there had to be 200 sheep in the middle of the road when we were.
Really? Really?
Yep.
They escape quite often. I've almost nailed a few of them
Yeah.
running down.
Have the ex-county board member?
Yep, it's Mary's.
Paul, was it? Yeah,
Former.
Yeah.
That's why we also put the average setbacks on there just to kind of show. And as you noted, the driveways or the parking areas are all. So as you said, they're all very tight along that whole stretch.
Seemed like the only open spot along there that that you were able to acquire.
It was very nice of my neighbor,
Yeah.
yes, it was.
It doesn't always work out.
It doesn't, no. To have it available and them willing, it's a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like the perfect.
That took me a long
Yeah.
time to dig
Yes.
through here,
Yes.
that he bought the lot from
Right.
the other one when I was looking at it.
Yeah, it was 70 feet. 70.99 on hold. So he'll have. 104 and 70, no, 33 and 70, so you'll have 100 feet roughly. Is that right, Mark? About 100 feet of.
At the meander line, it's 104 plus the 8, so it's 112 on the meander line, but at the lake, it's less because you can see it's tying down. His original lot was basically 71 feet wide, and he purchased at least 30 feet of frontage there, wider as it goes back. It wasn't purchased for the frontage, it was purchased for the space for the garage, is how we configured the lot here.
As my neighbor kind of wanted to keep some of the frontage as well, so that's why we were able to go with that portion of it.
So normally, one of the things that we've done in the past is because we've been, obviously DNR rules change. Every 5-10 years, different administrations come in, things like that. One of the things that we've been consistent on is the shoreline restoration. It's been pretty significant for us to be putting those stipulations on properties if we're gonna allow variances within 75 feet or closer to the lake on things like that, so. You'd mentioned that you're not really interested in doing any shoreline restoration, if I recall on that, because if I get the numbers right, you have the actual lake frontage is about 100 feet, Mark, is that what we're saying? And of that old lot where the house was on, most of it was open to the lake, I assume, right? Yep. And so by adding the lot that he purchased is only say 38 feet or 33 plus Mark, you say 12 or is it? Maybe not.
Yeah, it was 33.
30, I see 3307, but
Yep.
then he mentioned that.
Easy way to think about it is he has to give up about 40 feet of his yard.
Of what of the
Currently.
71 he had. And so if he let the woods grow in from the, the northeast. On the lot he purchased, 20 more feet, and if they did a buffer on the 20 feet on the west side. That'd be about 40 feet of that 70 then, right?
Correct.
Which would then meet the requirement of the 30% shoreline corridor.
Still give them some room to have yard.
30 feet.
Well, in this case, it actually works out because the east section, lot 3 that he purchased is already wooded. And then what you're basically doing is just you're gonna have to revegetate the 20 feet on that side. And then look at possibly doing 20 feet on the west side, and that would meet the then viewing corridor requirement that we've been consistent on. And then the garage, would fit in the requirements there. And even backing up in that one, that's tight, but it's just, again, I don't think you could enter from the side and not tear everything up.
And at least
And
that
it's close
one-
enough to turn around possibly
They
there.
got 20 at least there, so.
Correct, it's not 5 feet, yeah.
Better than that.
We'll probably put 20 there so that at least have a car lane.
And we're not encroaching, it looks like we're 42 feet setback, so we're not hitting that 35 mark that we always talk about.
Yep.
I guess that would be kind of my idea or thought on it, and that would be dependent on the applicant, to see if that's of interest, but. Any other thoughts or comments from you guys? Or more questions?
I think it's consistent with what we've previously done.
Yep, I'd entertain a motion.
So if it's moved in 20 feet on both sides, how far back from the lake does that go as well?
37.5, 37.5 feet from the ordinary high water mark would have to be. And that would be determined by Emily, who will come out and meet with you and
Find what type
try
of
to work out a
species
plan
or-
for you on that.
If we decide not to do that, are we able to use that lot and take down some trees and just use it for parking then or something like that? Is there anything like that rather than building a garage then, or is it?
Yeah, so once you're beyond 50 feet from the lake, you can cut down all the trees you want.
What's that?
You can discuss what type of plants with Emily to plan. And see what your options are.
Right.
And we could, like I said, we can approve the applicants and say they don't wanna do it.
Yeah, how I would recommend you, if you're gonna approve it, you approve it with the conditions that you want, and
Correct.
then the applicant can decide if they wanna do it or not.
And it's really not as obtrusive as you think it is, because I'm a builder and I've had to do a couple of rain gardens and had a couple of these things done for additions. And it's really not so bad. I mean, it's not a, super bad thing. It's good for the lake. It's really, that's all that they're trying to do is protect the quality of the lake. That's all that.
I understand that totally. It's just the only level part of my whole
No.
yard to be able to do any entertaining and stuff like that. That's the only problem what happens, to try to. If you want to sit and play the cornhole being a bad game, that's really the only area you can spread it out to play it,
I know, I understand. It's
Well,
just that we're giving a lot to just get a little for the lakes. So that's kind of how this board has always been.
I understand that. That's understandable.
I would make a motion to approve the variance. One stipulation I would put too, that the upper level cannot be used for sleeping of the bunkhouse. So we'd have to do the shoreline to follow the state standard view and access corridor width, which is not to exceed 30% of the shoreline for the corridor width, and the vegetated natural area needs to be a depth of 37.5 feet landward from the ordinary high water mark. This is the same requirement as listed in the state statute 59-692 1VD, which allows for up to 200 square feet of open-sided construction within the 75-foot setback. They will have approximately 100 feet of shoreline, which will allow a 30-foot wide viewing access corridor to be determined wherever you want it. Gutters on the garage will be directed to a rain garden, and that would be helped to design by the county, Emily, when she comes out. Proper erosion control to be in place during the construction. Lock and chain to be installed on the septic tank by 5/1/24.
Oops, that should be 25.
Okay, 25, 5/1/25. Permit to be obtained for the garage before construction. Garage will need to meet the flood plan requirements.
There's to follow all local, county, state, and federal requirements, because it bled onto the next page.
Oh, thank you.
Yep,
Okay,
and then you also have then not,
not for sleeping.
no sleeping.
The
quarters.
bunkhouse cannot have sleeping quarters. It
The
can have a
garage
bathroom.
Cannot have a bunkhouse.
The
It's not a
garage cannot have a bunkhouse.
I have a motion by Peterson and I believe 7 stipulations.
I second it.
Seconded by Schmidt. Any other discussion on 2431 Duncan and Johnson? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Right, now, I need you guys to sign last month's decisions real quick here.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason.
This one was the patio within the rear setback, near the Voyager Village land.
Here's Emily's numbers that just through your office or.
Yes. This one here, oh, this was
This is
that
actually really good.
addition on that private road, that really good plan.
Oh, yeah, the applications.
Yeah, the application was very thorough. Yes, four.
Just two.
Just two.
And three more,
Three next
and
month.
it's retired again?
Retired till 25, yeah.
Start in April.
Mhm.
And don't you want to be drawn in?
Now you can do your, motion to adjourn or whatever.
I make a motion we adjourn.
All seconds, all in favor, say aye. Aye, we are adjourned at whatever time she be.
All right, but.
7:49, hour 19 minutes. That's not too terrible. It's fixable.
Never knew. Reason